The media has radicalized the people that are trying to kill my father. I've had to deal with that twice now in the last 2 months. I've had to have that conversation with my 5 young children twice in the last 2 months about someone trying to shoot their grandfather. You know, that didn't just magically happen. That's not him. That's a media created fake Russia scenario. They ran with it for years. Even when it was disproven, they still ran with it. You know, that environment wasn't just created by Donald Trump.
Okay, but can I say, you can't blame, and everyone wants your dad to be safe. No one wants the threats against his life to happen, but you can't blame the media for those threats. There's been no evidence that's what drove those.
And allows people to have a platform to call someone literally Hitler every day for 9 years, it creates it.
Okay.
Whether you want to believe it or not, that's a fact.
But as you know, J.D. Vance once likened your dad to Hitler as well. He questioned if he was America's Hitler.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
In case you missed it, there was another notable fact check during debate night on Tuesday. And it came after the stage lights were turned off and the American public were forced to have this image stuck in their head as they tried to get a good night's rest. Well, Halloween is approaching, I guess. After Trump VP pick J.D. Vance undid a solid night's work of pandering, lying in a more intellectual way, by refusing to say if Trump lost in 2020 or not.
This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously.
And I think at the very end of the debate, we saw something extraordinary. Tim Walz asked J.D. Vance if Donald Trump lost the election. He was incapable of answering that simple yes/no question. J.D. Vance can only get so far from the man at the top of the ticket, and that was on display in that one moment.
Well, over in the spin room, Donald Trump Jr. spoke with CNN journalist Caitlin Collins, using this opportunity to complain about what he sees as the demonization of his father by the media. That's right, folks, the weasel who posted this in the wake of Paul Pelosi almost getting murdered, wanted to complain about how, quote, the media has radicalized the people that are trying to kill my father. I've had to deal with that twice now in the last 2 months. Of course, neither of those were Democrats. In fact, they were registered Republicans. But of course, in desperately seeking his father's affection, he made no mistake in placing the blame of political violence squarely on Democrats and journalists, which Caitlin Collins pushed back on, setting the trap so perfectly for someone as dim-witted as him to fall into willingly.
J.D. Vance, as his running mate famously a few months ago, how do you think he did tonight?
I thought it was a masterclass. It was just an incredible performance, just real command of the facts. Didn't let sort of the fake fact check, try to steamroll him. He came back with actual facts. I think he literally won every issue across the board. I think he was actually very comfortable on so many of the issues that Republicans tend to fail. He was probably more comfortable in those issues than most Republicans are, even on our strong points. So I think it was an incredible debate.
Do you think he was more comfortable in those issues than your dad was in the last debate?
Well, I don't think, it wasn't necessarily a 3-on-1 debate. It started that way. I think J.D. Vance shut that down, and there were rules, and we said they should be enforced. Those rules were not enforced with my father. I think what happened in his debate was absolutely disgusting, and I think the American people witnessed that. I think they saw the bias that's out there in the media. I think they see that we are literally up against $1 trillion of mainstream media. You're up against $1 trillion of big tech functioning as the marketing department for the other side. But the reality is, Caitlin, the world is watching what's going on right now. They see it when they go to the grocery stores on a daily basis. The media has radicalized the people that are trying to kill my father. I've had to deal with that twice now in the last 2 months. I've had to have that conversation with my 5 young children twice in the last 2 months about someone trying to shoot their grandfather. That didn't just magically happen. That's not him. That's a media created fake Russia scenario. They ran with it for years. Even when it was disproven, they still ran with it. That environment wasn't just created by Donald Trump.
Okay, but can I say, you can't blame, and everyone wants your dad to be safe. No one wants the threats against his life to happen, but you can't blame the media for those threats. There's been no evidence that's what drove those.
And allows people to have a platform to call someone literally Hitler every day for 9 years, it creates it.
Okay.
Whether you want to believe it or not, that's a fact.
But as you know, J.D. Vance once likened your dad to Hitler as well. He questioned if he was America's Hitler. But I want to talk about the debate.
I mean, it was perfect, wasn't it? And it set the precedent for more fact-checking to take place, which we now know, thanks to J.D. Vance, the Trump team thinks isn't part of the rules?
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and
they watch Iran not through proxies but directly attacking Israel right now. We could be on the brink of World War III. You notice how those things didn't happen under Donald Trump. You may not like everything that he says. You may not always like his demeanor. But the dictators of the world understood strength. They understood the resolve that we saw after he got shot in the face coming back to fight. And they didn't trifle with that. We've been leading with incompetence and weakness for 4 years. The world has watched and they've capitalized on that. Our enemies, Iran, wants Kamala Harris to be president. They've said that. They've leaked documents to her stolen from our campaign that they hacked. Russia has said they want Kamala Harris to be president because a weak America is good for Russia. A weak America is good for Iran, and a weak America is great for China, all of whom are chomping at the bit for a Harris-Walz administration and the continuation of the Biden policies that have failed America for the last 3.5 years.
Well, and I should note, when you talk about Iran, I mean, Iran did hit American troops when your dad was in office. I covered that, and today he was asked about that. He likened the traumatic brain injuries to headaches. But on the debate itself, it was very civil. I mean, they acknowledged when they agreed, they gave each other the benefit of the doubt. Should we see more of that on the debate stage when your dad's up there?
You know what? I'd love to see that across the board. Sometimes the political climate isn't that much. We've all heard about Trump derangement syndrome. We've seen what they've lied about my family. I was an agent of Russia, but Hunter Biden's laptop was totally Russian disinformation. Turns out the opposite was true.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
But I want to talk about the debate. Do you want your dad to do another debate after seeing tonight?
You know what? I don't think he can have a chance at getting a fair debate. I don't think there's moderators out there that will do that. I think there are probably Fox moderators that are so worried about even trying to appease the left that they'd actually maybe even.
Well, your dad said
way.
CNN gave him a fair debate.
Well, he offered to do the Fox debate. Just so we're clear, my father weeks ago said, well, I'll do a Fox debate too. Kamala Harris turned that down because she can only go in, she can only do an interview with a sidekick like Tim Walz on her side. She can only do it when she knows she's going to have that upper hand. So I don't think in this environment you can do it. The reality is this. What's unique about this election is you had 4 years under Trump. You had 4 years under Harris-Biden. We know the policies are going to be the same because she cut and pasted them onto her webpage and didn't even change the source code. So you can have more of the last 4 years, or we can go back to a time of peace and prosperity. It's a very simple choice.
But
people can go into a grocery store today. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer is no.
On your argument about your dad doing another debate, obviously he has said right now that he thinks another debate would be too late. But is he letting J.D. Vance, his running mate, it would be his vice president, have the last word in that case? Are you okay with that?
I'm fine with it. I mean, I think they get along great. I think, again, J.D.'s debate performance tonight totally speaks for itself. The reality is this. I mean, I commented on Twitter. I'm watching. Tim Walz is listening to J.D. I think he's voting for us. I mean, he was nodding along in agreement on all of the things that J.D. was saying because he actually spoke with facts. He called out all of the nonsense. And I think it was an absolute masterclass performance.
Well, and Vance said he agreed with Governor Walz on some things as well. Donald Trump Jr., thank you for your time tonight.
And all this comes after his father's VP pick failed to significantly move the needle from the rock bottom position it was in regarding his own likability. In fact, it was so bad that even Fox News reported that J.D. Vance lost the debate.
Because you mentioned him, 58% said Walz won, and 42% said Vance won.
And no amount of silver-tongued mansplaining could deflect from the main takeaway, the sheer spinelessness of a man who once said so many disparaging things about Trump it could fill a CVS receipt.
I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible. Those are things that the left is going to come after you, and they're probably going to be put in ads should you be chosen as the VP pick.
Standing in front of the world, unable to admit that his cult leader lost in 2020, only to then double down when asked about it at a rally the next day.
With some elected officials or election officials last week about their concern about people who are trying to undermine our elections. Why didn't you answer the question last night during the debate about who won the 2020 presidential election?
Well, look, here's the simple reason The media is obsessed with talking about the election of 4 years ago. I'm focused on the election of 33 days from now because I want to throw Kamala Harris out of office and get back to common sense economic policies. But I also think you can believe that America needs to have secure and free elections, but also talk about the fact that just a couple of weeks ago, Democrats in the U.S. Congress blocked a piece of legislation that would have ensured illegal aliens don't vote in our elections. If you believe in American democracy, if you believe in our constitutional republic, you should be trying to strengthen American election integrity and not weaken it. So we're going to talk about election integrity because I believe that every vote ought to count, but only the legally cast votes. And that's why we fight for election integrity. And that's why we care so much.
Very important place for the next 33 days, that's for sure. And that is Auburn Hills, Michigan. And you're watching the vice presidential GOP candidate.
What a coward.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.